During colonial era, the Malay nation were ruled by foreign countries like Portugal, Netherlands, and British with political, commercial, and economic interests. Malacca was first taken by the Portuguese in 1511, by the Dutch, and finally by the British, who had the greatest impact, then followed by the Japanese colonization. This presentation objectives are to explain the reason or causes of colonization and also to appreciate the effort of our national heroes that fought the independence of Malaysia, especially our first Prime Minister, Tunku Abdul Rahman, or also known as the Bapa Kemerdekaan.
Be explaining about the economic sector. There are 3 points. First point is extracting land-based resources. Britain was losing a lot of silver by buying tea from China. To fix this trade deficit, they used ports like Singapore, Penang, and Malacca to collect and sell tin and paper. By the 20th century, Malaya became Britain's top money maker, known as the dollar earner. Keeping the empire economy stable, this rapid success was driven by 2 things, which is steam dredge machines that mine tin faster, and the global expansion of the car industry, which needed massive amount of rubber for tires. Second point is shifting from trade to government control. At first, the British were just trading partners. However, the Industrial Revolution changed everything. British businesses invested heavily in large mines and plantations, so they demanded total political peace and safety to protect their investment. The British government stepped in and changed local laws, so land could be bought and sold like property, which helped British companies grow but hurt local farmers. To control the economy without causing a rebellion, they used indirect rule, keeping the Malay sultans in power but placing British resident advisor behind the scenes to make all real decisions. And the last point is splitting the economy and its legacy. The British created a divided, two-sided economic system designed only to send raw materials back to Britain. Not to build up Malaya, they focused entirely on the rich export industries but completely locked local Malay people out of these modern commercial businesses. This forced the local population to stay in low income, traditional farming because the British can only care about resources extraction. They left behind a deeply fractured and unequal economy. These structural problems did not go away and continue to affect Malaysia long after it gained independence in 1957. Thank you.
So we move forward to the social sector, and the first point is securing industrial raw materials. To understand why the British came to Malaya, we first have to look at what was happening back in the Great Britain. By the 19th century, Britain was known as the workshop of the world. Their factories were rapidly expanding, but they ran into a massive problem, which they were running out of raw materials. They desperately needed a tin for their growing canning industry and rubber for the brand new automotive and machine industries. Since they couldn't produce this cleanly or efficiently at home, they had to look globally while they already had a strong influence in Latin America by 1842. Malaya quickly became the next crucial target to feed the British industrial machine. And we move forward to the point 2, which is the shift of trade to political governance. Now initially, the British were just trading partners, but they quickly grew uncomfortable relying on unpredictable trade pacts with Malay rulers. They wanted absolute control. Why this happened? Because political control meant they could dictate labor laws, keep production costs incredibly low, and ensure all the profits flowed straight back to the London. The turning point came when local instability started threatening British profits, specifically the Larut Wars in Perak, which were violent clashes between Chinese secret societies and the tin mining rights. Give the British the perfect diplomatic excuse to step in, restore order, and officially shift their role from mere merchants to colonial rulers. So moving forward in the third point, which is environmental and demographic transformation, what was happening is that once the British established political control, they completely overhauled Malaya. They introduced hydraulic mining, massive rubber plantation, fundamentally changing the physical landscape of the country to maximize the efficiency. But this massive operation required a huge workforce. To solve this, the British brought into a massive wave of migrant workers, as what we see in modern days, our citizens, which is from China and India. This economic strategy created a historian called a plural society. It meant different ethnic communities lived side by side, but they were deeply segregated based on their jobs. This completely transformed the demography and social fabric of Malaya, leaving a legacy that lasted for generations, as what we see in these modern days.
Thanks Irfan for your insight. Now moving to another reasons for colonialism. Colonialism was strongly influenced by strategic and military interests, especially in controlling key trade routes to secure their position and power in their region. One of the popular examples is the Strait of Malacca. Strait of Malacca is the busiest trade routes in the world, carrying nearly 22% of the maritime trade. These include oils and gas shipment from the Middle East to developing countries like China or Japan. So, European powers such as United Kingdom want to control this route because it connects Europe to Asia, making it a vital trade in military movements. So, if they establish power in strategic ports like Malacca, they can monitor trade and military ships and also block other nations that want to take their power. Moving to the second point, which is naval and military bases. Naval and military bases is the central reason why colonial power want to come to Southeast Asia. The base were not just ports. It is a carefully developed strategic hubs that allows empires to expand their power and their control. For instance, Singapore, founded by Sir Stamford Raffles in 1819, the British saw its potential because of their natural deep water harbour that located along the Strait of Malacca. Singapore turned into a major naval base. In the early 20th, after the construction of Singapore Naval Base that allowed British warships to refuel, rearm, and undergo repairs. Another example is Penang, that were established by Captain Francis Light in 1786. Penang is ideal for logistic base and help the colonial powers to coordinate military movements. According to Tarling in one of his books, such ports were essential to secure powers and sustain commercial networks. That's all from me. I pass the presentation to Jericho.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jericho Janopanan, and today I will be explaining the influence of Islam in the Malay nation and how it contributed to the spread of Christianity during the British colonial period. Before British colonization, Islam was already deeply rooted in the Malay nation. It played an important role in shaping the daily life of the Malay people, including their customs, value, and social practices. Islam also influenced the political system, as many Malay rulers governed according to Islamic principles and also the traditions. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the strong religious foundation of Islam in the Malay world attracted the attention of the British colonial administration. Besides that, the intention of pursuing economic and political interests, the British will also aim to introduce Western civilization and Christian values to the local population, meaning to say the British intended to spread Christian value or Christianity to the Malay nation. One of the main methods used to spread Christianity was through missionary schools. These schools were established by Christian missionaries and served as centers for education and religious teaching. Missionary schools were particularly prominent in Borneo, especially in Sabah and Sarawak, because these two states or the border side of Malaysia are the main attraction to spread Christianity or the Western civilization. Through these schools, local communities were provided with access to Western education, the English language, and Christian teaching. As a result, missionary schools became an important channel for introducing Western culture and Christianity while also expanding educational opportunities for the local population. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, Islam had already established a strong influence in the Malay nation before the British colonization. The British later promoted Christianity and Western civilization through missionary schools, particularly in Sabah and Sarawak, which played a significant role in shaping the educational state or the educational level and cultural landscape of the region in Malay nation. Thank you. Now moving on, just now I had discussed the Christianity spreading in Malay nation, and now I will be discussing the impact of British colonial rule on the legal and administrative system in Malaya. Ladies and gentlemen, during the colonial period, the British introduced Western legal and administrative system to improve governance and maintain control over the territories under their administration. This system brought significant changes to existing legal framework in Malaya, which also had impact on our legal administrative of Malaysian nowadays. One of the most important contribution was the introduction of English common law, which later became the foundation of the Malaysian judicial system, or we also known as unwritten rule. Many legal principles and court procedures languages used in Malaysia today are based on this system. The British also introduced both written and unwritten laws, just like I had mentioned just now. Written laws consisted of statutes, ordinance, and regulation enacted by the government of Malaya or Malaysian government, while unwritten rules included the judicial precedents, and legal custom derived by English common law. Despite these changes, Islamic law continued to coexist alongside English law. The British generally allowed Islamic legal principles to remain in force, particularly in matters closely related to religion and Malay custom. However, the Sultans of Malaya thought that their power had been limited by this British administration. Islamic law mainly governed areas such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, and other religious affairs involving Muslim, while English law was applied to criminal, commercial, and administrative matters. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, British colonial rule significantly shaped the legal system of Malaya by introducing English common law and modern administrative structures. At the same time, Islamic law remained an important part of the legal framework, especially in religious, customary matters, creating a dual legal system that continues to influence Malaysia nowadays. Thank you. It has been a pleasure for us to present our website to all of you, but we're reached to the conclusion part. So let's get to it. British colonial rule in Malayan nation was motivated by both economic, political, and geopolitical, such as the significance of Malaya's resources, including tin and rubber, as well as its strategic position for trading. The British introduced Western legal, administrative, and educational system besides missionary activities. Malaya's social, political, and economic structures underwent significant transformation, such as transformation as a result, many of which continue to have an impact of the country today.